Welcome to the Capital News. I'm your host, Alex Karitis. Today is Election Day here in the United States. November 3rd, 2020 finally made it. Hope you're all doing well. Title of today's podcast, Election Night Update. I imagine this is going to be a shorter podcast. It's important to note the time that I'm starting this, about 11:45 here on the East Coast. PM, of course. So anything could happen during the time of this podcast. Some big states might actually get called by various news outlets. And of course, I hope you're flipping through the stations, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. They're calling different states. Some of them are calling some states earlier. Some are holding off, saying they need a little bit more. According to Fox News, President Trump has won the state of Florida and Joe Biden has won the state of Arizona. Of course, these things can change. We saw that change happen in the state of Florida in 2000 between George W. Bush and Al Gore. There was a little bit of a difference in that call with respect to the state of Florida. However, the margin right now that Donald Trump has in the state of Florida looks like it's going to hold, and he should win that state rather convincingly, but we'll continue to keep you updated on that. This does not appear to be a good night for the pollsters, so these guys might be out of the job. I mean, 2016, you think they would have made some better corrections for some of those errors that did occur in 2016 to make sure that they were, of course, minimized for this one. And over the past couple of weeks, we've been paying close attention to those polls, particularly Nate Silver's 538.com and the Real Clear Politics polling averages and their Electoral College math, and sort of just playing the probabilities based off of those polls. It is still very much any man's race, with Donald Trump looking to seemingly have won the state of Florida. It looks like it's going to be that way. May very well carry the state of Georgia and North Carolina. This is not earth-shattering news. The president carried these states in 2016, but it's very important for him to carry them again. It also looks like the president may hold the state of Ohio, but that one's still a little bit of a toss-up. So there's still a long way to go. A lot of states, especially those crucial states now at the blue wall, which it really seems to be coming down to, which of course Donald Trump tore down in 2016, and he could do it again. Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, that's going to take some time to tally up all those votes, probably a couple days, especially for the state of Pennsylvania. And that's going to be the case for other states outstanding as well. But if it holds, according again to Fox News, if it holds that Joe Biden won the state of Arizona, that's going to give him a nice cushion and take away those 11 Electoral College votes from the Trump column. And as we have been stating, it's just seemingly been the case, polls or not, it just seemed like there were fewer avenues to re-election for the president and a lot more avenues to get to 270 for Joe Biden. However, a lot of those avenues appear to be getting shut down by Trump. He worked his tail off, no doubt about it, over these past couple of weeks. Several campaign rallies across the country. The man's tired. Don't blame him. I hope he's relaxing in the White House. I'm sure that's what he is doing. It's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long week, most likely, because Joe Biden is not likely going to win the state of Florida, which would have been a huge game changer and could have turned this into an early night. So it's going to come down to that blue wall most likely, and we're going to get, again, to some of that analysis to discuss those things. Market performance, however, I want to talk about because the markets are going absolutely crazy, haywire, back and forth, across the board, currencies, commodities, metals, stocks, bonds, you name it. Everything is going back and forth. So take down these numbers if you want, because we're close, because I've seen some big reversals across 1%, 93.9. This was well above 94 maybe about an hour and a half ago, up about 0.7%. But now again, the dollar index is trading at 93.9 and up about 0.4%. Crazy volatility in the currency market. The euro to the dollar is down 0.5 percentage point. The British pound to the U.S. dollar is down 0.7. The Aussie to the U.S. dollar is down 1.25%, a huge decline. New Zealand Kiwi to the dollar is down over 1% as well. Another big move is the U.S. dollar gaining about 1% against the Chinese yuan. And the People's Bank of China has injected 120 billion Chinese yuan into the market. Why? Well, why not? That's what central bankers do. You got to flood the markets, right? U.S. dollar against the Swiss franc is gaining 0.5%. The dollar against the Canadian is up 1%. U.S. against the Mexican peso is up 2.3%. So there you have it. A lot of movement in the currency markets. Overnight futures trading is also rocketing back and forth. Dow Jones Industrial Average is currently up about 0.2%. The S&P 500 gaining 1%. And the NASDAQ 100 is up 2.6%. I do believe NASDAQ futures trading was up over 4% earlier this evening. So something very much to pay attention to. A lot of market volatility. Japanese cash trade is up 2 percentage points right now. A big gain across the pond in Europe, anywhere from 2.3 to 3%, depending on the index. And the Australian cash trade is currently down 0.25%. On the commodity front, crude oil WTI is trading up about 2 percentage points, $38.35 a barrel. Brent is at 174, percentage-wise increase. Back at a 40 handle, $40.41. Natural gas hanging on, $3.07. Gold and silver both did relatively well in the day trade. Overnight, however, both are currently down. Gold is down 0.5%, trading at $1,899 an ounce. Silver is down 1.5% at $23.80. Silver was down quite a bit more than that earlier, but bouncing back as well. Uncle Sam's 10-year junk note yielding currently 0.81%. This was close to a 9 handle earlier. So again, volatility back and forth. Anybody's guess what's really going on in these markets. A lot of bets, of course, thinking that a lot of the pools were going to usher in perhaps some sort of blue wave or that was going to be an early night. Now those bets are getting unwound. Bunch of money in the system. Central banks throwing it out there, levered up on leverage. Anything can happen. That's why I always stay diversified, stay vigilant, especially in these times of uncertainty. And we are certainly in a time of uncertainty on election night here. It is at 101.1 million. Staggering results. In-person votes accounting for 35.9 million. Mail-in ballots returned accounts for 65.2 million. Again, that grand total, 100.1 million. Again, according to the U.S. Elections Project, coordinated by the University of Florida. So there you have it. Politics, most recent electoral college map, no toss-up states, 319 to Biden, 219 to Pence. However, this map gave Florida to Joe Biden, so I'm going to change some of this stuff up just so we can do some what-if analysis here, because that's some of the horse race stuff that's going on in the media. I'm not too fond of that, to be perfectly honest with you. It's not really what this podcast is about, but I know that's what everybody is focusing on, so we can discuss it as well. So Texas, I'm going to give to Donald Trump. Florida, I'm going to give to Donald Trump. Georgia to Donald Trump. North Carolina to Donald Trump. Ohio to Donald Trump. Fox News will give Arizona to Joe Biden. Nevada, I'm going to keep in the Biden camp for the time being. Minnesota to Biden. Wisconsin to Biden. And Michigan to Biden. That gives you 269 electoral college votes. And if you switch it up and give Trump Pennsylvania, 261. Give him Iowa, 267. Now you have those two districts, one in the state of Nebraska, one in the state of Maine. If Joe Biden gets either one of them, it gives him 270 electoral votes. If Donald Trump gets both of them, it's a tie at 269. And again, this assumes that Donald Trump wins Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Iowa. So that's why I'm saying this has always been an uphill battle. Can Donald Trump win? Of course he can. Am I going to be surprised if he wins? No, not in the slightest. Those of you who have been with me, I do not like either of these parties. This two-party system has destroyed this country. Look what it's doing now with all of the misinformation, the disinformation, the hyperbole, the exaggerations, the flat-out lies, everybody getting siloed in. It's about winning. You know, I couldn't tell you how many people I have said, you know, I'm voting for the Libertarian candidate, which I did this morning and proudly, and say, oh, well, she's not going to win. It's not about winning. Now, you can think that, and I respect that, but that's not what voting is about. That's the problem. Everything is in this country has either turned into some sort of financial asset. Your home is not a place for birthdays and get-togethers and barbecues and holidays. No, it's a financial asset, and that's all there is to it. Trade it, just like anything else. There's no essence. There's no spirit to anything anymore. It's just about winning, and it's at any cost, and it's at any expense. You think I really give a damn who's in that White House at this juncture? It makes really no difference. It's just a matter of class and respect and some rhetoric. And I can tell you this, from being a student of history, this divisive rhetoric, I don't care whose mouth it comes out of, but the fact that the president can't rise to the occasion and blames all of the troubles that are plaguing this country on the Democratic Party, that might win, that might play well to the politics, but that is not good for this nation. It just is not. Study Eastern Europe. Study Latin America. When you have these countries, those countries, in the past, some currently, that are also suffering economic, political, and social decay, it does not come to a surprise to those who understand history that somebody who has a populist message can rise to power. Sometimes you might get lucky and have somebody who knows what they're doing, and most of the time, that's not the case. And most of the time, it is completely destructive, and it continues that path of decay. These past 4 years, this is not Donald Trump's fault that this country is so divided. But he ain't making it any better. And that's a problem. You may not like it. I don't like it. So what? This is the reality that you have to deal with. You have to grasp it. This isn't some sort of Trump derangement syndrome. This is anti-system, anti-establishment. You cannot have a divided country. A divided house cannot stand. No matter who wins, are you going to get rid of the other party? No. So you already know this. So stop with the first grade kindergarten antics. No disrespect to first graders and kindergartners. You already know what you're going to have to some degree on the other side. And as of right now, it appears that the House is going to remain in the hands of the Democrats. So Crazy Nancy is still going to be the Speaker of the House, most likely. She's going to run again for the speakership, and I imagine she will win. But regardless, you might have some sort of split government, which I said was a possibility, which is why I posed the question to this audience many times. What would you rather have? Would you rather have a Biden presidency and Republicans in control of both chambers? Would you rather have Trump as the president and the Democrats in control of both chambers? Because either was a potential possibility. That's why I brought it up. Even if it wasn't a possibility, it's still an interesting question to ponder. What kind of checks and balances is this country going to have? Because everybody wants to put on the president, Obama, Clinton, Bush, Trump, Biden, makes no difference, that they are somehow the savior, that they are the cure-all. That's not how it works in this country. And the more power we give to that executive, the further and further we remove ourselves from our constitutional republic. And the further we remove ourselves from our constitutional republic just simply means we're continuing our descent. We are continuing on our path of economic, political, and social decay. Again, and I have stated this many, many times before, and this audience knows it, those who have been with me. And I stated it a few moments ago. Donald Trump is not the cause of this. He is a symptom of this decay, just like so many other world leaders who have risen to power. They have grown up. They have come up through that chaos. And more times than not, they continue with that chaos. 2016, I voted for Donald Trump. I gave him a chance. This is not what I voted for. Not by a long shot. Not by a long shot at all. Just imagine, and this sort of proves my point here, that Donald Trump is not the problem, but a symptom of this. Could Donald Trump have become the president in the year 2000, or in 1992, or 96, 2004, 2008? No. Maybe, possibly, he could have beaten Obama in 2012. Maybe. But definitely 2016 was ripe for the taking. And it happened. Because this country was going down the tubes. That was the problem. Because it came about winning. The two-party system got more divided. It got more toxic. And now people within their own households can't even speak to each other, some of them. I defended this president when I started this podcast in 2019 against the Russian hoax, the collusion. It's on tape. Glad to defend him on it because that was a joke. The Democrats get no mercy from me either here. They've been a complete and utter disgrace. And that's what this election is turning out to be. This is some sort of repudiation, but it doesn't appear to be on any grand scale. It was either going to be a repudiation of Donald Trump and his antics and his behavior and his rhetoric, or perhaps it was going to be a repudiation of how the Democrats have been behaving over these past 4 years, and people were sick and tired of it, and so they're going to propel President Trump to another election, or to another successful re-election bid and back into the White House for another 4 years. Either still is possible. But what are we going to get on the other side of it? That is the ultimate question. People are upset about the looting in the streets. My hand's up, so am I. I don't like it. These people need to be held to account. They need to be arrested. They need to be prosecuted. Justice needs to be served. But that seems to be where the focus is in this country. It's whatever the news media has their cameras on that is really easy to connect the dots for most people because it's right in front of you. That's looting. They're breaking into a mall. They're breaking into a small business. They're stealing stuff. It's not good. It's against the law. Lock them up. But what people don't seem to understand, and this too is in the news media, this too is on camera, but for some reason people can't connect the dots. So you have a bunch of poorer people, most likely, breaking these glass windows, running into these stores, stealing thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. And people are rightly upset. But then you have people, major corporations, politicians of both parties, banks, walking right into the U.S. Treasury, stealing billions and trillions of dollars. And nobody seems to care. Yet that's the structural underlying problem here. And both parties sign off on it. The Nobody Cares Act. That's what this podcast is about. It's not about the horse race. It's not about the bullshit, because that's what it all is. It's all a circus. Get upset. Get your blood pressure boiling for a bunch of poor people, most of them stealing tens of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. Lock them up. May justice be served. But what about the trillions that are being robbed from us? Because that's our money. That's our money. But I guess if you can walk into the bank, into the Treasury with a smile on your face and a nice suit with a fancy degree, I guess people just can't connect the dots. It blows my mind. This shouldn't even be a discussion. This shouldn't even be an argument. This is just everybody is pent up and emotional. You have your attachment to the Republican Party. You have your attachment to the Democratic Party. Back and forth. Donald Trump, there is a big emotional attachment to Donald Trump. There's no question about that. Joe Biden, probably not so much. Not so much. But again, that's sort of the referendum or the repudiation of Donald Trump and company. But that's what this is. That's all I'm trying to do, is to elevate the conversation, Now, you might think that that's not elevating the conversation. Maybe you think what I discuss isn't newsworthy, isn't to be discussed. Maybe you think I'm off my rocker. I don't. I think I'm right over the target. And I think I have most of the I got 27 trillion pieces of evidence in my corner. You have an emotional connection. You have something that you've appreciated for whatever reason, because you like to see liberals cry and whine. That ain't good enough. That ain't good enough. You like to see conservatives lose and point out that they're hypocrites. That's not good enough. That's not solving a damn thing. You're never going to have a perfect candidate. Democrat, Republican, Libertarian. You know why? Simple. Because they're all human beings and none of us are perfect. Not a one. But there are certain ways to go about doing things. There are certain topics that need to be addressed and they are not being addressed. They're not even being discussed. They're not even blowing by in the wind. So you can get your high school popularity contest going on here with this circus, and maybe you'll get your clown. Some of you prefer Trump. Some of you prefer Biden. Knock yourselves out. Because that's exactly what's going to happen here. Because none of this stuff is being addressed. It's not, and I don't imagine that it's going to be. Continuation of uncontrolled and unchecked central banks. Now they're talking about digital currencies. The Federal Reserve they're all talking about it. Where do they get off talking about it? Has anybody checked the Constitution? What's supposed to be money in this country? What is supposed to be settled for debts? Has anybody ever read it? What's going on here? I just don't get it. You know, Trump derangement syndrome on the one hand, and then it's Trump obsession on the other. That's the problem. You can't have this much attention on these people. They are the problem. You know, to be perfectly honest with you, I was almost hoping one way or the other that there was going to be a big wave in this country in this election, either a blue wave or a red wave. Now, personally speaking, I would have rather it have been a red wave because the Democrats are completely off their rockers, completely. But the reason I would have preferred to see some wave is because I'm against the two-party system. And so if there was a huge wave, then that might be really detrimental damage to the other party. Quite frankly, I wouldn't have cared, but I would have had a preference. So you know what that means? We'd only have one more party to get rid of. We'd be halfway there. Just like half the country doesn't pay income tax. Well, we're halfway there. Because that's part of the solution. Abolishing the federal income tax. Abolishing the Federal Reserve. How we solve all the other problems is not up to the government. It's up to us. It's up to we, the people. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Now it's how much can I get? How much free crap can I get? And it's from both sides. It's from both sides. Just hand out checks. Just give it away as if there's no cost. Because as long as somebody can win an election on the other side of it, it's at any expense. That's what's destroying this country. I don't care who wins, because it doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't. Because none of the structural issues are addressed. Not a damn one of them. And it's sad and it's pathetic, but that's just how I see it. We can have disagreements on that, and that's fine. That's what this podcast is about. But you got to come at me with some evidence here. And I may very well agree with you on some topics, and I hope that I do. But 27 trillion in debt. If that doesn't matter, okay. Then I don't have to pay taxes anymore, and I don't have to pay my bills anymore, because they can just print the money. Or they can just print the digital currency, or however they're going to do that. That's the logic that needs to follow. That's a question that needs to be asked to your representatives, to your senators. And I intend on asking my representative, whoever wins in this election here, that very question. They're going to look at me like I got 3 heads. I can guarantee you they're not going to know what the hell I'm talking about. But this is huge. This is big business. Is the U.S. dollar going to be the reserve currency, the global reserve currency, or are we going to get rid of it? Or is it going to be substituted with a digital currency? What does that mean? And again, do deficits matter? Do debts matter? Are there negative consequences to this action or no? I can almost guarantee you I'm not going to receive an answer. I've tried receiving an answer on this, and I've gotten brushed off. This is above and beyond my letters that I have shared with this audience on several occasions. I get brushed off with these emails because there's no representation. There's no recourse. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Democrat. You just want adults, you just want leaders, you just want somebody to be honest. That shouldn't be too hard to ask. You want somebody who believes in free market capitalism. The idea that this will never be a socialist country, it's too late. Do you not understand the definition of socialism or fascism? They're basically the same thing. They're 2 rails to the same track leading in the same direction, which is disaster. You either have socialism, where you have production that is run and managed by the government, or you have fascism, which is a merger of big business with big government. Well, that's what we have. We have the merger of big business with big government, and we have a huge side dish of socialism. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, other transfer payments, Obamacare. They're involved with everything. And again, this is right in your face, just like there's loot in the Treasury. Billions and trillions of dollars right in your face. I don't understand how people buy into this. I really don't. But I guess, as I've stated a couple of months ago, all you have to do is come up with those key words, 500 words for the Republicans, 500 words for the Democrats, and just repeat them long enough. Be persistent. Be consistent. There you go. You can become president too. Doesn't matter if it's lies, exaggerations, nonsense, misinformation, disinformation. Doesn't matter. Those are the key words that turn people on, man. And if you can get them turned on, they're going to vote for you. And you know what? Nothing's going to change. And you'll be back in midterm elections. They'll say the same words. You'll vote. Nothing will happen. You'll be back for another 4 years. 2 years, obviously, with the presidential election. Same thing. Over and over and over again. So if somebody listening can tell me a concrete policy that either one of these idiots is going to come up with that is going to address these structural issues, please send it to me. Please. Prove me wrong. I've told you. I would be happy to be proven wrong on so many things. The protests, the riots, the destruction, the moral, the political, the economic, the social decay. I would love to be wrong. The stock market bubbles, the bond bubbles, the housing market, the evictions, the unemployment. But you know what? We got a pretty good track record here. Prove me wrong, please. I couldn't be any more sincere about that when I say that. So I don't care what platform it is, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, I don't care. My website, send me some evidence of these 2 demented jokers that have something that is going to truly, structurally change this country for the better. That is above and beyond the typical BS talking points. That's your homework assignment. Please prove me wrong. And I don't want to come off sounding arrogant. That's not who I am. I don't want to come off sounding that way. But I have been listening for a long time. And it's not just these 2 idiots. It's anybody in Congress. It's Obama. It's Biden. It's Trump. It's Pence. It's McConnell. It's Crazy Nancy. It's Chuck Schumer. It's Bush. It's Clinton. Where is it? Go back as far as you want. That's all I'm asking for, is an elevation of the conversation. I don't think that's too much to ask for. It really shouldn't be. Because the deeper we dive down into the muck of Republican talking points and Democratic talking points, the further we are going to divide ourselves. And I can assure you, if the conversation is elevated, I know this for a fact because I've had conversations with people who don't even understand some of this stuff, but they can grasp it. As soon as they hear it, they know it, because people instinctively, intuitively know that something is wrong. But they never hear about it. And they're not going to hear about it on the mainstream media or from these politicians, because they are a part of the system and they want to keep it going, because they're the ones that benefit from it. Go into Congress, middle class, you walk out a millionaire. Solve that one. And it's supposed to be public service. Come on, open your eyes, get real here. Elevate the conversation. Then we can have some real change. It's not going to be a panacea. It's not going to be a flip of a switch. I'm not naive to think if oh yeah, we get enough people that it's just going to solve it right away. No, it's going to be one hell of a fight. And it's going to be a long fight because there's a lot of money, there's a lot of power behind this. And they like their money, they like their power, they like their station in this life, whatever they might be doing. But it's at the expense of a lot of people. And that's what bothers me most. I don't like bullies. I don't like people taking advantage of their positions of power and putting their throat on the back and on the neck of the little guy who doesn't know any better. That bothers me to no end. Talk is cheap. I want to see some action. Haven't seen it. I give anybody credit where credit is due. Those of you who have been with me know this. I've defended and supported the president on many occasions. And should he win re-election, I'll continue to support him on certain aspects. If he does something good, I'll applaud him. Same thing with Joe Biden. Give credit where credit is due. Try to be as objective as possible. To some degree, root for their success, because this is still the United States of America. You don't want to see this country, I don't want to see this country go down. I'm sure there are others, several across the world, that do want to see this country go down. I don't want to see this country go down. I love this country. What it stands for, what it's supposed to stand for. Not how we're behaving today. So in summation, it's anybody's night. It's anybody's race. Do your best to stay calm. Stay collected. Educate as many people as you possibly can on these structural issues that we talk about here every day. People will see the light. People will start to wake up. And if you can start having those conversations, then we can really start to turn this country around. Some of them are basic, but they're not even brought up. And that bothers me to no end. But there you have it. Election night update. We're, over 30 minutes into this one, so who knows, a couple of states further could have been called right now. I don't have anything updating in front of me at the current moment, so there we shall leave it. Stay diversified, stay vigilant, and stay with the Capital News. I am Alex Kreitis. Godspeed.